Most people think older men become hard to live with because they're angry. Usually it's not anger, it's exhaustion that sat there too long. A man who used to joke more now answers with one sentence. Simple conversations start feeling like pressure. Even being asked small things feels heavy, not because he hates people, but because after years of stress, responsibility, tension, and constant noise, something inside him quietly shuts down. And the dangerous part is most men don't notice it happening. They think they're protecting their peace. Meanwhile, everyone around them starts feeling pushed away. That's why some older men become harder to live with over time. Ivan hadn't yelled at his wife in over a year. Polite, quiet, predictable. The silence is so perfect they could probably hear an ant crossing the plate. Did you eat already? Yeah, you? Done. A complete conversation, efficient, empty. What unsettled Ivan wasn't the distance between them. It was the realization that he had already left this house a long time ago, even though his feet had never crossed the door. He didn't collapse. He just stopped showing up fully in his own life. That's where most men misunderstand calm. Everything keeps working, but inside something has gone still that shouldn't have. When wanting fades without being noticed, a man can live for years without knowing he is already halfway gone. He was still sitting at the table, but nobody could reach him anymore. Like a fish circling the same tank so long it forgets the glass is there. If Ivan wasn't asking himself whether he was happy or unhappy. Instead, he asked something simpler. How long had it been since he last felt genuinely excited about anything? One creates peace. The other slowly pushes everyone away. And most men don't realize which one they're in until something forces them to look. David didn't become hard to live with overnight. At first, it looked like stress, long work days, less patience, more silence at dinner, nothing dramatic. But slowly, the atmosphere around him changed. His wife started hesitating before asking simple questions. His answers became shorter. Everything sounded heavier than it needed to. How was your day? Tiring. You okay? I said, I'm fine. Little by little, conversations stopped feeling natural around him. Not because he was yelling, because people could feel he didn't want to be reached anymore. It rarely looks explosive. Most of the time, it just feels like tension that never fully leaves the room. David noticed it one night when his wife dropped a glass in the kitchen. She apologized immediately, too quickly, like she already expected irritation before he even reacted. And that moment stayed with him. Not because of the glass, because he realized everyone around him had started managing themselves around his reactions. And the dangerous part is, many men call this peace. They think they become calmer because they talk less, because they avoid arguments, because they keep things controlled. But sometimes control is just exhaustion that stayed too long. And over time, that exhaustion changes the temperature of an entire home. A man can hide his frustration from himself far longer than he can hide it from his children. Kevin realized this during a random afternoon with his teenage son. They were watching a game together when his son asked a simple question. "Why do you always sound irritated, Dad?" Kevin almost answered defensively. Then he noticed something painful. His son didn't ask the question casually. He asked it carefully, like he had already learned how to read his father's mood before speaking. And suddenly, Kevin started remembering small moments he used to ignore. The shorter answers, the irritated sighs, the way his son sometimes stopped talking halfway through a sentence. Not because he was afraid of being yelled at, because he no longer felt completely comfortable around his father. He just quietly started believing, Dad doesn't really want me around right now. And over time, something inside the relationship changes. The child stops opening up the same way, stops sharing small things, stops trusting the father the way he once did. Not because the father stopped loving him, because the child stopped feeling that love clearly. If this hit closer to home than you expected, leave a like. A lot of men carry this for years without realizing what it's doing to the people around them. That's the dangerous part about becoming hard to live with. The people around you start protecting themselves from your mood long before you notice they're pulling away. Mark used to be easy to work with. Clients trusted him. Co-workers included him in conversations. People naturally relaxed around him. But over the years, something in him hardened. Not dramatically, just enough for interactions with him to start feeling heavier than they used to. His patience got shorter. Small problems irritated him faster. Simple conversations started sounding exhausting to him. And eventually, people noticed. Clients became less talkative during meetings. Co-workers stopped bringing ideas to him as often. Even casual conversations at work started carrying tension. People are too sensitive now. Nobody can handle directness anymore. That's what he told himself. But one afternoon, a longtime client asked to work with someone else on future projects. Because every interaction with him had started feeling heavy. That moment stayed with him. Not because he lost one client, because for the first time, he realized his exhaustion had slowly become part of his personality. When a man pulls away for too long, people stop experiencing him as calm. They start feeling drained after spending time with you. People stop wanting to build things with you. Because no matter how skilled a man is, people still want to feel comfortable around him. And when they stop feeling that comfort, doors start quietly closing long before he realizes why. If this conversation reminds you of someone you care about, send it to them. Sometimes people don't realize what exhaustion has slowly turned them into until they hear it from the outside. At first, it doesn't look like isolation. It just looks like a man getting tired of people. And after a while, the distance stops feeling temporary. Steve noticed it slowly. At first, he enjoyed ignoring calls. Then he stopped returning messages altogether. Friends invited him out less often now. Not because of one argument. Not because anyone hated him. People just stopped expecting warmth from him. And the strange part was, Steve barely noticed it happening. He told himself he preferred being alone anyway. That's what many men do when exhaustion slowly hardens into distance. Real peace still leaves room for other people. Isolation slowly pushes them out. And over time, isolation changes a man. His patience got shorter. Even his normal expression started looking tense and annoyed. Not because he became cruel, because when a man spends too long closed off, even normal human connection starts feeling intrusive. And the dangerous part is, by the time many men realize it, they've already spent years convincing themselves this is simply who they are now. Kirk didn't notice it immediately. At first, the distance felt peaceful. It even felt easier. Until one night at a small gathering, an old acquaintance looked surprised to see him there. "Wow, haven't seen you in a while." Kirk shrugged lightly. "Been keeping to myself." The man laughed awkwardly. "Yeah, you kind of disappeared on everybody." That sentence stayed with him longer than he expected. Not because it was cruel, because for the first time, Kirk realized something uncomfortable. People hadn't only stopped reaching out to him, some of them had slowly adjusted to life without him there. Friends stop opening up naturally. Co-workers keep conversations shorter. Family members stop bringing certain things to you altogether. Not because they stopped loving you, because they stopped feeling close to you. And eventually, a man can become so disconnected that even his return feels unfamiliar to the people who once knew him best. That's when being alone stops feeling like peace and starts feeling like a life with fewer and fewer people left in it. One of the hardest moments for a man is realizing he didn't become peaceful. He became emotionally unavailable. And the truth is, most older men don't actually want isolation. They want relief from pressure, relief from carrying too much for too long. But eventually a man has to ask himself a difficult question. Have I become calmer, Or have I simply stopped letting people reach me? Because those are not the same thing. Real peace doesn't make your children feel careful around you. It doesn't make friends feel drained after talking to you. It doesn't make people slowly disappear from your life. And the good news is this: a man can learn to reconnect, to answer without irritation, to stay calm without becoming cold. But it starts with noticing what exhaustion has slowly turned him into. And if you're someone who loves a man like this, understand something. Many older men don't know how to explain what they're carrying. Sometimes exhaustion comes out sounding like distance. Give him room without completely disappearing from his life. Speak to him calmly. Let him feel that a connection still exists without making every interaction feel heavy. Because sometimes what solely brings a man back is simply feeling emotionally safe again. If this kind of conversation speaks to you, subscribe to Move or Die Stoic. Because a lot of men are carrying things they were never taught how to explain.